Hello, everyone, and welcome. We'll get it started now and anticipate a few more people to join us as we move into the hour. My name is Sadaf Montazeri, and I am the Digital Research Specialist here at the Offsite Construction Research Center at the University of New Brunswick. Thank you for joining us today for our Transforming Construction 2025-2026 webinar series. Just a quick overview of how our today's session will run. Just a brief introduction to OCRC and our partner Building Transformations. Introductions to our speakers, Mark Tepper, VP of Sales, and Chris Summers, Application Engineer at Augmenta. Their presentation on from concept to completion, how AI-powered generative design is transforming electrical design workflows, and it would be followed by Q&A and discussion. Just a quick reminder for all the participants, you can submit questions at any time using the Q&A feature. It is separate from the chat. And if you accidentally post a question in the chat, my colleague Rashni will move it into the Q&A for us. If you are having any trouble hearing audio or run into technical issues, please let us know in the chat or Q&A and we'll help right away. All sessions are recorded and will be posted on the OCRC YouTube channel, as well as the Building Transformations YouTube page. So just a bit of a background on the University of New Brunswick. UNB is the oldest English-speaking university in Canada, founded in 1785. It was the first university in Canada to offer engineering, forestry, and computer science programs, with the first engineering lecture delivered in 1854. We have two campuses, Fredericton, where I'm joining you from today, and St. John, both located in New Brunswick. UNB is home to over 25 research centers and institutes, including leading researchers across multiple disciplines. And over the past decade, UNB has played a significant role in building New Brunswick's entrepreneurial ecosystem and was recognized as Canada's most entrepreneurial university by Startup Canada. And about the Offsite Construction Research Center, OCRC, the OCRC was founded through an industry partnership, and that remains central to who we are today. So we are now worked with over 80 industry partners across Canada. Our core values include applied industry relevant research, collaboration with industry and academic partners, research excellence, integrity, including a strong commitment to equity, diversity, inclusion, and ethical research practices. While our work is highly applied, our role as a research center means we are committed to delivering objective, evidence-based outcomes, even when those findings challenge assumptions. Our work generally falls into four key areas: process and productivity improvement, digital technology implementation, structures and building enclosure testing, including our new high-performance building research lab, benchmarking, innovation, and construction research, which supports industry roadmaps and strategic planning. Beyond research, we also host webinars, conferences, and industry events, and we maintain an MOU with Northumbria University in Newcastle, UK. In 2024, we hosted the Transforming Construction with Offsite Methods and Technologies conference here in New Brunswick. And in 2026, the conference will be held in Newcastle, UK from August 18th to 20th. So feel free to just mark your calendars. I'll now briefly introduce our partner, Building Transformations. With over 135 member companies and a strong and growing presence across LinkedIn and YouTube. Membership options for both individuals and organizations, with organizational memberships covering everyone within a company. Building Transformations also publishes the Innovation Spotlight, available on their websites, and hosts several in-person events as well. In 2026, events are planned for Calgary, Montreal, Arizona. Note the new date for this event, Halifax, and also Toronto. So their next major industry summit will take place in Phoenix, Arizona on April 21st and 22nd. And we encourage you all to keep that in your calendar. As always, we also thank Building Transformations mission partners, including their strategic and gold level supports. And before we move on, I'd also like to thank OCRC's partners, including the Government of Canada through multiple funding programs, and also 𝐞𝐞𝐬𝐢𝐧𝐠 Construction Group, our funding partner. And our marketing partners, which are all listed here. So with that, I am truly pleased to welcome our today's speakers from Augmenta, Mark Tepper. Mark is the VP of Sales at Augmenta, where he leads a go-to-market strategy and drives revenue growth for innovative generative design solutions in the AEC industry. He has built and scaled sales organizations at 𝐞𝐥𝐞𝐬𝐢𝐧𝐠, Metropolis, UpCity, Matterport, and HomeFinder.com, consistently developing high-performing teams, securing multi-million-dollar enterprise deals, and delivering triple-digit revenue growth. His leadership spans early-stage startups to established technology companies with deep expertise in revenue generation, team building, and strategic partnerships. Mark also contributed to 2 successful IPOs, playing key roles at Matterport and iPix. Beyond technology, Mark is an entrepreneur and investor. He co-founded AB Soccer Tours, serves as a minority owner of Academy Bolt Club 𝐸𝐴𝐴, a Danish professional soccer club, and leads MKD Consulting, advising seed to Series A companies on scaling skills and raising capital. He holds a bachelor from the University of Pennsylvania. And Chris Summers, application engineer at Augmenta with a career spanning nearly 3 decades. Chris is an industry veteran who transitioned from the field to the forefront of construction technology. He began as an apprentice, earning his journeyman's and master's license in Wisconsin. After years as a foreman, superintendent, and project manager, he joined Faith Technologies, where he excelled as a VDC detailer and later a supervisor. It was during this time that he demonstrated his adaptability by quickly learning the Revit platform and using it to turn failing projects into profitable ones. As a VDC supervisor, he played a key role in leading change management initiatives aligned to the deployment of new technology and workflows for his team. Today, as an application engineer at Augmenta, Chris uses his wealth of experience to help teams leverage AI at its best to enhance their BIM VDC workflows. So, Chris and Mark will be presenting on from concept to completion, how AI-powered generative design is transforming electrical design workflows. So, Mark, I'll hand it over to you now. So please go ahead and share your screen. I'll stop sharing on my end and give you a thumbs up once we can see it.
How are we doing? Can you see it?
Perfect. Yes.
All right. Terrific. Well, thank you very much for that introduction and allowing us to be a part of your organization and be able to here today to share, some really interesting information and some data about Augmenta and who we are. We'll get right into it. What we're going to cover today, we're going to cover AI in construction. We're going to cover what spatial AI is. We'll do an intro into who we are, Augmenta. We'll talk about a case study that we had with an excellent customer of ours and how it helped in their processes. We'll dive a little bit deeper into how ACP works, and it wouldn't be a webinar without some sort of acronym. ACP, Augmented Construction Platform, is what it stands for. We'll talk a little bit about our vision for the future, and then we obviously want to leave plenty of time for Q&A for all of you out there to ask us some questions, and we'll do our best to answer. So to dive right in, I'm going to hand this over to Chris.
All right. Thanks, Mark. So what we wanted to talk today, we're talking about AI adoption in the construction industry. And specifically, we're going to look toward the electrical contracting platform. And there's a reason for that. Well, that's where I kind of came from. But before we dive into all that, I really wanted to kind of talk about how AI is being adopted currently. And you'll see the infographic on the screen in front of you. And what we're seeing from this trend, from the study that was from some of the studies that we've reviewed is, while there are a lot of people beginning to implement AI, the satisfaction and the trust factors aren't quite there yet. We're still in a very strong trust but verify stage in the AI adoption and AI implementation points and phases within construction process. So as we see, on the lower left-hand side, the AI weekly usage by individuals and their satisfaction really not that great. We're seeing good usage, but the satisfaction, at a 6.95 out of 10, that's a D plus C minus grade at best. A lot of this is coming from new users not understanding the platforms, not prompting properly, and slowly learning this process of how to get better results out of the AI. But AI is still new, it's still young, and it's still learning, so it's going to give us some errors. As we see these errors transition into those same individuals that are doing it by themselves into the company applications, we're seeing only about 50 to 53% are still experimenting. They're still not sure how to use AI in their processes, what kind of leverages they can see from this. And then we're even seeing some companies aren't AI ready at all, and that's a staggering number of 68%. You want to jump to the next slide, Mark?
Yeah.
Thank you. So as we talk about where people are going with this, we talk about why we're seeing some of these numbers, and there's skepticism around this. And the biggest one that we've noticed, and we've talked to our clients, and I'm sure a lot of you have experienced everything in your own lives, is data privacy. I'm sure if we did a poll right now, there's a number of you that have been in data center sites, and those first three little letters that comes out of everybody's words of non-disclosure agreement pop into everybody's head. So data privacy is at the forefront of everybody's concern. Is the information they're providing to these AI agents actually going to be used for public usage, or is it private? So data privacy being one of our highest concerns. The next one is over-reliance. Why are we talking about over-reliance? People are starting to really, they're losing time. We're seeing a dramatic shift out of the construction industry with the older generation moving toward retirement, and not as many people filling those gaps coming behind them. We're losing a lot of skill, we're losing a lot of knowledge base, and people are trying to overcome these schedules. So they're trusting the tools that they have a little too far. And the loss of critical thinking becomes a serious point of discussion. Now, with the loss of critical thinking comes inaccuracy. And inaccuracy, again, trust but verify. People are trusting a little too much and not double checking the results. Now, when we start talking about just documentation and things of that nature, we can figure typos out. We can read the documents. We can find things that don't quite make sense, and it's a very quick regeneration. But as you'll see, as we start talking about spatial AI, that time frame starts to expand. Now, a couple of the other smaller reasons are just transparency and overall job displacement. Now, job displacement we can talk about is probably not going to be hitting the construction industry anytime soon. We're going to see more of a hybrid approach with the teams and making sure that people learn how to use it, the AI, and use it well. All right, now we can jump ahead.
Sorry.
No worries. Great, Mark. All right. So when we talk about what uses of AI are out there, I can actually look back to AI way back, even back as far as the early 80s, late 70s, with the invention of the automatic teller. You dial in somewhere, give it a few prompts, and it's directing you in the right direction. This was base level AI at its very infancy, and it's began to get better and better and better over time. And with the proliferation of data centers and hyperscalers, we've seen the explosion of AI in the last few years. Now, when we first started talking about AI analysis and reporting, we were talking about document management. We were looking at how do we parse information, maybe it's environmental reports, things of that nature that we could parse very quickly. We've seen a really rampant rise in the use of tools like Power BI about 5 to 10 years ago. And then that started to shift into more of a graphical interface and use. In the design and generation portion, we started seeing more tools as far as floor plan generation, base level MEP layout and coordination in like a 2D plan layout, and even people being able to reuse parts quickly from previous projects with tools that are already existing. Now, as we continue advancing, we're starting to move into that three-dimensional application and how we're going to use this with our live trade partners. How do the electricians interact with the mechanical teams, the plumbing teams, and overall structural teams, and fitting that all within the architect and the engineer's design intentions. But what makes spatial AI fundamentally different? That's really the question we need to get to. All right, Mark. So where LLMs and your ChatGPTs, Claudes, Copilots, Geminis, and things like that really focus on document research, writing, character-based generative AIs. When we have things that go wrong, we're talking about maybe a typo, awkward phrases, or maybe we just got to rerun the prompt and try and clean something up with a little bit better clarity and context to the agent. But when we start talking about spatial AI, we're not using natural language models. We're using a system of constraints inside of a building. We're using physics. We're using gravity. We're using supportability. We're using building codes like the NEC, BICSI, NICET, IBC, and any local codes that might be applicable. And at the end of this, what we're trying to get to is a fully constructible prefab ready design. Now, when we take all that into consideration, if the AI isn't set up correctly, this could come in the form of big time change orders, schedule impacts, or even work delays or stoppages. Go ahead, Mark.
Terrific. Yeah, thanks, Chris. Really appreciate that. It was great. So a little bit about who we are, Augmenta. So we are a software company, and we've been operating for over 6 years. Our co-founders came from Autodesk, and they invented and led Autodesk generative AI in a project called Dreamcatcher. They left there because they just felt that Autodesk wasn't moving fast enough. And what Augmenta does at its core is we have an AI engine, AI tool that automates the routing and coordination of the core engineered systems inside buildings in 65% of the time. So today we're focused on the routing and coordination of electrical conduits. However, our plan is to have a coordinated AI for the mechanical and plumbing contractors as well. At the end of the day, look, Augmenta, our goal is to save you time and money while increasing productivity, which is what spatial AI is really meant for. So think about it like this. Imagine starting a high-level layout and setting up project requirements and essentially just pressing a button and within a few hours generating a fully detailed, coordinated design, complete with costs, performance, and schedule analysis. Now imagine doing that across hundreds of design options, exploring every alternative and answering complex design questions in minutes instead of weeks. And this isn't a distant vision. It's really what the future of our industry needs and the future that we are actively building and focused on. So today we're going to take you through a case study with a company called C&R Electric. So they implemented our AI powered conduit routing platform on 2 consecutive school projects in Lansing, Michigan. A little background on C&R, they're a full service electrical contractor with services that range from schools to hospitals, apartments, commercial buildings, you name it, they do it. Our main contact was a gentleman by the name of Travis Sorrell, and he's their BIM and VDC director. He led both implementations. Now, Mount Hope was, came first as a pilot, and Willow followed soon after that one. And what makes this, case study really valuable isn't just that the technology worked, which obviously it did. It's that we can see exactly how the results change between projects 1 and project 2. Did the learning curve flatten? Did efficiency improve? Did the platform itself get better? So let's dive into it and give you the details about these different projects. So on Mount Hope, that was the pilot project, as we mentioned. It was 50,000 square feet, single building, 11,000 feet of conduit, nothing exotic, standard overhead routing for a K-5 school. The setup took 8 hours, and this is Travis just getting used to the system and learning the platform. But even with that learning curve, so the results were strong. 25% time savings and over 100 hours saved. Material waste dropped by 15% because the routing was just more optimized. Prefab drawings came out a month earlier than typical timeline, and needless to say, they were pretty pleased with the pilot project. Now came the second project, which was Willow Elementary, and this was a much bigger project. It was 80,000 square foot building with 40,000 linear feet of conduit over multiple buildings. So as you can see, even with a bigger project, the setup time decreased as they became more familiar with the Augmenta AI software, what we call ACP. The amount of time saved increased from 25% to 40 to 50%, and the total hours saved compared to manually modeling conduit was 320 hours. So generally speaking, their setup time decreased by 50% and their time savings increased by 2x. So look, as with any AI, it continues to improve along with CR's knowledge of the platform. It takes a little bit of time to use the platform and understand it, and you can see how that changed the results here. And their expectation is that this is going to, have even more time savings on the next project as our AI continues to develop and continues to learn and continues to get better. Now, we got a lot of feedback from people on this project, and you can read through what they said here. But what really matters is the performance improvement came down to 3 simple things. 1, it was easy to use. Even with little knowledge of how to use Augmenta on the Mount Hope project, Travis and his team got up and running quickly and saved time. Number 2, it removed manual busy work. So the system automatically grouped and organized conduit, so the team didn't have to spend hours arranging and rearranging racks by hand. And third and lastly, the designs just made sense in the field. The routing matched how electricians actually install conduit, which helped close the gap between the model and real-world construction. I'm going to turn it back over to Chris.
Yeah. So as Mark talked to you about, why does this work? ACP is meant to assist or augment the actual users. I can tell you from firsthand experiences sitting down to projects that a lot of times once we're given a project, just as an anecdote, we're given it on a Wednesday and we're expected to have content in it by fully be populated by Friday. A lot of us, we realize that that's not realistic, but we're putting those kind of stresses on a regular basis. What ACP is intended to do is really to shorten that time frame between population and getting you into coordination, but not just get you to coordination, get you to coordination with a realistic semi-constructible design that doesn't impact coordination the way some manual modeling can be. Now, why did we start with electrical? We started with it because it's the hardest problem. When we look at construction timelines as a whole, and we get into the modeling process, typically by the time the electricians are brought in or the electrical contractors are brought in, mechanical design is 80+% of the way done. Plumbing design is 80+% of the way done, and they have a lot of content in the model, which leaves the electrical contractor kind of in the lurch. Our panels are placed, devices are placed, lighting fixtures are placed, but nothing interconnecting them is really there. And this is where ACP can begin to help these teams. What we're going to do is we're going to take a look at your model and we're going to look at it the way a field foreman is going to. We're going to understand where can we go? Where can't we go? When we look at a model, models can be very confusing. If we look at a ductwork, for instance, the four walls that create a ductwork, there's a hollow space in the middle of it, which would look very appealing to a conduit route. But we have to realize and teach our AI that that space is accounted for, and we need to go outside of that ductwork. So we need to look at solid surfaces, we need to look at supportability, and we need to look at penetration analysis to understand and build constructible solutions. Now, when it's broken all the way down, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to look at your model the way a field foreman would. We're going to do supportability analysis. We're going to do penetration analysis. And then we're going to generate on the designs and the ideas based on the scope that you provide. This wouldn't be AI if we didn't iterate. So we're going to give you multiple solutions that'll help develop to point you toward the solution that's most efficient for you, your team, and your client. All right, go ahead, Mark. So we're just going to have a little video playing here in the background. And what we're looking at here is one of the solutions that's generated from a project. Now, inside of our studies, we do give multiple solutions. We can give up to 12. And the reason behind this is that when we're sitting in a chair as a VDC manager or VDC operator, we don't have the time to do multiple solutions or solution studies because we're already under the gun. This is the benefit of ACP. Now we can look at real world actual potential solutions and evaluate their pluses and minuses. We can get our field teams involved earlier. We can get our project management teams involved earlier. And we can really let the teams diagnose and develop those solutions that they want to see. What we can also do is we can work inside of the Revit model as VDC operators and control the scope. We can control the conduit run schedule, the feeder schedule, and also the rules that ACP uses to develop these solutions, from conduit spacing to elevation to clearances and so on and so forth. All right, you move on, Mark. Perfect. Now, as we get these solutions in the model, we're able to review them. We can review all the solutions, but we're also not just going to give you pretty pictures. We're actually going to give you, excuse me, we're going to give you some data-rich views or data-rich solutions that include all the information that you provided us for our scopes. So your source to destinations, conduit IDs, systems that if you have them coordinated to that, feeder IDs, which include the number of conduits and the size those conduits need to be, including the number of conduits, or excuse me, the length of those conduits, the number of bends, and then even give you some metrics on construction time and cost. Now, while these estimates are exactly that, they're not going to align to most people's structures, it gives you the ability to look at value engineering applications for any situation that you have out there. Right. Now, once we realize a solution into Revit, we've got the ability to do a few things. We know that we're going to have to edit these solutions. They're not perfect. They get you close to coordination and ready to have those discussions with your trade partners. And what we've done is we've gone ahead and added some tools that go along with this. But at the very heart of what we do, we keep this as simple as possible. All the generations that we create and are realized into Revit are based on Revit generic parts. And that's done for a couple of reasons. We want to make sure that anybody that's using Revit MEP can edit these as needed. They don't need special tool sets or special tools bars to get this work done. We also include what you see on your screen here is one of our newest tools that was actually client driven. And it was based on the idea that they need to be able to visualize these conduits and be able to edit them very, very quickly. So we needed to make a tool that was lightweight, didn't impact the design, didn't impact the view operation, but it actually gave them the tools that they needed to edit these conduits visually, not parametrically. All right, Mike, excuse me. Now, we talked about the Willow and the CNR projects that were created. Here's a couple more case studies here. This is a healthcare facility that we did, and this is actually completed in the end of 2024, where we're seeing about a 50% increase in efficiency over manual modeling time. Next one. This next one is a data center that was created. Now this one was created, Q4 of last year. We were able to see almost a 70% increase in over manual modeling time, with a really extensive amount of feeder and conduit lineal footage being produced as part of those solutions. All right. Now, where is all this going? We're on a trend line increasing and shooting for a 4x faster timeline by the end of Q4 this year, 2026. We're increasing because of the way that we operate. We don't operate like like a typical company. We are a SaaS company, but we're heavily invested in our clients and making sure that our clients are successful. Now, the team that's here on this next slide is my team. Go ahead, Mark. There you go. This team is the people that I work with. And we don't just hire application engineers. We recruit the elite subject matter experts. Collectively, this team brings over 100 years of combined hands-on experience in the construction and construction tech industries. And we focus strictly on making sure that our team, the clients that we work with, are as successful as possible. And that means talking with them, finding out what's working, what's not working. We need that feedback from them so that we can make the solutions better and make them more efficient. Our motto is basically, your success is our success. All right, go ahead, Mark. Now, like Mark alluded to, this is just the stepping stone. Electrical overhead is really just a stepping stone for Augmenta and ACP. And earlier this month, we actually did kick off our mechanical and plumbing agent developments. And we're expecting an MVP in the near future. Where we see this going fundamentally is that we're looking to systematically disrupt the coordination process. We want to look at real world constraints from a holistic approach with all of the trades, including structural, in the near future, and be able to look at the critical path on a project and understand that it's not, hey, the electricians need to go here or the mechanical team needs to go there. It's who can actually get somewhere earlier. We can start changing the critical path based on understanding of the lead times of our teams and their trade partners, and not just who gets there first. So with that, Mark, you want to advance the next one? Excuse me. So AI is reshaping the way the world works. And if you're interested in getting involved or want to see ACP and try it yourself, please feel free to reach out. We'd love to have a conversation and welcome that opportunity. So from there, I believe that might be the last slide.
That is it.
All right.
Terrific. Yeah. So we welcome all your questions.
Hey, thank you guys. Thank you, Mark, and thank you, Chris. Now we'll move on to the Q&A. So there is a question regarding that. The first one is that why is electrical design such a strong starting point for generative AI?
From the conversations I've had with our leadership, our CEO, CFO, or CPO, really they targeted the electrical because of that gap between the beginning of a project. Electrical and ECs don't have those. We have lines on drawing. We got one line drawings that designate and tell us where conduits have to run to, but it's actually not shown in the model. So there's a discrepancy between the time that an electrical contractor is given the model and the time that coordination's got to start. And there's a very large population effort that needs to happen there, which is part of the reason that they started this. Now, they also did this because it's one of the harder trades to crack, and I'm not trying to bash on any of the other trades. I love them all. But when we start talking about bends and things of that in conduit, it can take a monumental direction shift depending on obstructions that are in the way. And we were laying the foundation of what's going to help us lay out mechanical and plumbing in the future by cracking some of those codes that we might not necessarily need in mechanical and plumbing. So it comes full circle when we start talking about who goes first and why.
Perfect. Thank you. And another question, that how does ACP integrate into prefabrication workflows today, and where do you see this going in the future?
Currently, the way ACP works is we're more front end aligned. So we're going to take you from no conduit populated in a model to populated in a model in a very short period of time. Now, as we've created new versions, specifically, there was a big version for us. Our version 1.0 was released in September of last year, right before Autodesk University. It gave us the ability to do on-the-fly conduit run schedule editing. And it also looks directly into Revit. So ACP can read the information that's in Revit directly and not tie up the instance of Revit. Now, what this also allowed us to do is scale what ACP is doing. So instead of just being an initial population tool that people could use and then get into the model and move away from, we can now populate it. And then if there's change orders, which we all know there will be change orders, we can process those change orders very quickly by identifying the conduits or the conduit runs that need to be rerun and reprocessing on those. Now, as far as how this integrates into prefabrication, we're not in the prefabrication market yet. There's a lot of really great tools out there, and we're not really focused on that end of the process to date.
Perfect. Thank you. And another question would be that I think you just pointed out, but do you think that does this replace the designer, or does it change their role by just using and having these? It is more related to the first questions.
I don't believe it doesn't remove the designer. The engineers' roles are still heavily needed. We need the base understanding and the base intent for a project. What it does do is force multiplies the VDC detailer's role. So it gives them the ability to, when we look at building construction and the process through an actual project, it gives them the ability to start on the conduit runs overhead, and then shift immediately to, maybe creating the prefabrication sheets for all the underground stuff that's got to go in the model first. So we're giving the ability for these teams to basically multitask. While ACP is doing the overhead design for them, they can be working on something else in parallel, and they're not tying up each other's instance of Revit. ACP is a cloud-based service, which means we can run multiple studies at the exact same time for multiple reasons, but we're also not going to tie up your Revit instance. So once that study starts, you can go back into Revit and keep doing whatever you need to do.
Yeah. Yeah, we look at it as a way that it's not replacing, it's enhancing, right? And it's also, those critical functions that you work on are what, we'd rather you participate in and take time in doing versus doing manual modeling. Leave that to the AI. Let it do its job. And like Chris said, one of the great things about it is it's all done in the cloud. It doesn't tie up any of your instances. So a lot of times people will, generate in the evening, come back in the morning, and they have, models waiting for them, which is really nice. And even if they wanted to work in the evening, it's not going to tie up their Revit instance. They can still work on it as well. AI is just, ACP's working in the background.
Thank you, Mark. And the next question is that does Augmenta plan to move upstream to engineering and design in the future?
I'm not going to rule it out, but I'm not going to specifically rule it in. We really, when we're talking with our clients, we're really focused on what they need. And making sure that we're getting them the tools and the outputs that are beneficial to them. So when it starts coming to the mechanical and plumbing side, obviously there's more of a discussion to be had about the engineering side. Right now we're focused primarily on the electrical contractors and the people that are doing the conduit modeling, but there's always a discussion to be had, and with our end goal in mind, where we actually end up in the next 5-10 years, we're heading in that direction. What we fully realize is still up for discussion, and and what our clients want to see.
Perfect. Thank you. And just a question regarding the ROI, that where do customers usually see ROI? First project or over time?
Yeah. I'll jump in, Chris. It really depends, but we definitely find that depending on the project, you can have an ROI on your first project, but oftentimes it's going to be more on your second and your third project. But we could do a real ROI calculation with you. We have our own ROI calculator based on your data, and once we input that into our ROI calculator, we can tell you not only when you're going to get your money back, but how much time you're going to free up. Because so much of this is about we hear this all the time that oftentimes companies are so behind they have to outsource and do things that they wouldn't normally do. So how much time can we give you back? So maybe you can bring on more business or make your people more productive and get them working on other projects, which maybe they couldn't be able to get to. So, it really depends, on the projects themselves. But we can definitely show ROI, in the first couple of projects. But we'd love to get the data from you first in order to calculate that and give you a real world answer.
Another question is just related to just how do teams typically justify the investment internally?
Typically, we're looking at time saved over manual modeling time. When we talk about the estimates for these projects, we try to get them either from the client or a neutral third party. We don't estimate those manual modeling times, so we can look at this. Clearly, and where it's not influenced or biased. But when we start also talking about ROI, there's some tangible things, and then there's some intangibles. Being able to take a little bit of workload off of some of our teams and allowing them to focus directly on some of the more creative projects, or even some of the more time constrained pieces and parts, and knowing that they're still making progress. You really can't put a cost on that, but I can definitely tell my team is going to be less stressed and more creative in the process as a whole.
Oh, another question just came up. So the question is that when does this tool start working? And do we need to model up to LOD 300 to start working with this software?
So the tool is basically the way the tool operates is that we're going to work within Revit. We need to place sources and destinations, so switchgear, panels, transformers, junction boxes, things of that nature, and develop a conduit run schedule. And that's basically going to be your scoping document. As far as the complexity of the families, we're family agnostic. We can use the families that your teams have built, or we can provide families. Ultimately, what we're looking at doing is creating just a source and destination pair with a Revit electrical connector inside of it, so that we can target those. As far as going to LOD 300, it's not required. We've seen very good. We've seen very good results with just basic geometry on our, square boxes for your switchgear and square boxes for your junction boxes. It's you don't have to go extensive with it.
Thank you, Chris. And next question. Is Augmenta planning to integrate underground conduit designs into your workflow in the near future?
Yes.
Yes.
We get that question a lot.
Yep.
It is definitely on our roadmap, and it's in the near future. As far as an actual date, I can't give you that.
Yeah, but it is a priority. We recognize this, and we get asked this all the time. So it is on the roadmap, and it is a priority. We just we don't have our product person on the phone to make a commitment here, but it should be this year sometime.
Thank you so much. And we definitely will receive maybe more questions that we'll send it out to you by emails for the answers. But thank you so much. And I'm just going to wrap things up there. That just a reminder for everyone that today's session was recorded and will be posted online shortly. In addition to the recording, we also publish a blog post for every webinar. Mark and Chris will have a chance to review the blog and give us a thumbs up before it goes live, and it will be available on our website.